The capture. The Galactic Council prided itself on maintaining order. A vast coalition of alien civilizations. They ruled the galaxy through control, subjugation, and, when necessary, quiet extermination. Any species deemed too unpredictable, too dangerous, or too ambitious was swiftly dealt with. Humanity had long been on their watch list. Though technologically primitive compared to the great empires, they had an unsettling tendency to adapt, survive, and, worst of all, defy expectations. The Council had encountered this before, the early signs of an uncontrollable species. And so, when a lone human woman was captured in disputed space, they acted decisively. Evelyn Carter sat motionless in the cold interrogation chamber aboard the Council's high-security detention vessel. Her hands were cuffed to the chair, but her posture was relaxed, as if she were merely waiting for an appointment. The room was sterile, metallic, and dimly lit. A single alien stood before her, Commander Vorek, a Zelvarian officer with dark, segmented skin and piercing yellow eyes. "You are accused of espionage against the Galactic Council," Vorek stated, his voice a deep growl. "Tell me who you work for, and this will go easier for you." Evelyn tilted her head slightly. "Espionage? That's a bit dramatic. I was just passing through." Vorek narrowed his eyes. "You were intercepted near a restricted system. Your vessel had classified materials in its databanks. That is not passing through." Evelyn smirked. "You searched my ship, so you already know the answer." Vorek took a step closer. "Do not play games, human. Your kind is unpredictable, but you are alone. There is no rescue coming." Evelyn's eyes flickered with something that unsettled him. Amusement? Confidence? It was impossible to tell. She remained silent as the alien officer turned toward a side console. "Activate full genetic scan," Vorek ordered. A whirring hum filled the room as a hidden machine descended from the ceiling. A dull blue light washed over Evelyn's body, scanning every inch of her. Vorek watched the monitor, expecting to see a standard human genetic profile. Instead, the screen flashed red. A warning blared. "Error. Restricted data. Access denied." Vorek frowned. "Override the restriction." The AI obeyed. The screen flickered, displaying a fragmented sequence of Evelyn's DNA. For a brief moment, something horrifying appeared, a genetic marker the Council had encountered only once before. Vorek stepped back. His mind raced. "No, that's not possible." Evelyn finally spoke. "Something wrong, Commander." Vorek's claws curled involuntarily. He had interrogated countless prisoners, but he had never seen a result like this. The Council classified all genetic anomalies within their jurisdiction. Most were harmless mutations, but this was something else. He turned sharply to his officers. "Lock down this facility. No one is to enter or leave without my authorization." The guards hesitated. One of them, a reptilian Jakar officer, whispered, "Commander, is she dangerous?" Vorek's gaze lingered on Evelyn. She was still restrained, still unarmed, still completely at their mercy. Yet, for the first time in his life, he felt like the prey. "She is an unknown," he said finally, "and that is far worse." Evelyn chuckled, leaning back. "You regret picking me up already, don't you?" Vorek said nothing. He turned and stormed out of the room. But Evelyn caught the briefest glimpse of something rare in his expression. Fear. The genetic revelation. Commander Vorek stood in the dimly lit control room, his claws tapping nervously against the metal console. The warning message from the genetic scan still flickered on the screen. "Error. Restricted data. Access denied." Vorek had never seen a security lock like this before. The Council classified genetic anomalies, but no species. Not even the Zelvarians, the oldest race in the Alliance, had access to restricted genetic data without high-level clearance. Yet this human woman, Evelyn Carter, triggered a system-wide lockdown. A cold dread crept into his mind. He needed answers. Manually override the lockout. He ordered the ship's AI. A flicker of resistance, then the system relented. The screen filled with information, but instead of clarity, it brought more confusion. Evelyn Carter's DNA was not standard human. It had been modified, enhanced. Worse, it carried something ancient, a marker that should not exist anymore. The last time the Council encountered this genetic signature, an empire fell. Vorek's throat tightened. He turned to his second-in-command, a lanky, insectoid, Seric officer named Yixis. Have a scientist examine this data immediately. Yixis hesitated. Commander, if the Council restricted this, should he be looking at it? Vorek's yellow eyes hardened. We already have. Now we need to understand what we're dealing with. The data no one was meant to see. In the sterile white confines of the ship's research lab, a team of alien scientists analyzed Evelyn's genetic profile. Nervous whispers filled the room. This is impossible, muttered Dr. Selvin, a pale, amphibious scientist. Her DNA has been engineered beyond anything we've encountered. Explain, Vorek demanded. Selvin pointed to the screen. Her regenerative capabilities are off the charts. Her neurons are enhanced, far beyond normal human intelligence. And this sequence here, he hesitated, swallowing hard. It matches the genetic remnants of the Tarnax uprising. The room fell silent. Vorek's claws dug into his palm. The Tarnax uprising. The Council had wiped that name from history, but he knew the truth. Thousands of years ago, the Tarnax were an emerging species with a terrifying ability, the power to override technology with their own biology. Their minds could sync with machines, turning enemy weapons against their creators. The Council had feared them, so they exterminated them. Yet now, here is again, in a human. Selvin's voice was shaky. She shouldn't exist. Vorek turned sharply to the security officer. Bring her to the lab. Immediately. Evelyn's revelation. Evelyn was escorted in, her hands still bound. Yet she walked with an unsettling calm, as if she already knew what the scientist had discovered. You scanned me, didn't you? She said, looking around. And now you're afraid. Vorek narrowed his eyes. You are not an ordinary human. What are you? She smiled. You already know, Commander. Vorek clenched his jaw. Your genetic markers match the Tarnax anomaly. That should not be possible. Evelyn shrugged. Maybe humans are just full of surprises. Vorek slammed a fist against the console. This is not a joke. The Council eradicated that mutation for a reason. The last species to carry it nearly brought the galaxy to its knees. Evelyn leaned in slightly. Then maybe the galaxy deserved it. Silence. The words hung in the air like a dark omen. Dr. Selvin cleared his throat, breaking the tension. Commander, if she truly carries the Tarnax genetic anomaly, then she may already be influencing our systems. Vorek turned back to Evelyn, eyes narrowing. Is that true? Evelyn didn't answer. Instead, the lights in the lab flickered. Screens glitched. A security drone lurched as if its systems had been hijacked. Vorek's stomach dropped. It wasn't just a possibility. It was already happening. The Council's decision. Panic spread among the crew. Some demanded Evelyn's immediate execution, but Vorek knew they couldn't act rashly. If she could manipulate their systems, they had no way of knowing what she might already control. He turned to his officers. Secure the ship. No one leaves. No transmissions. Yixis hesitated. Commander, if the Council learns we've uncovered a Tarnax anomaly, they will. They will order us to kill her immediately, Vorek finished. He clenched his jaw. And if she is truly what the data says, we may not be able to. Evelyn watched them, amused. Now you understand. Vorek exhaled, the weight of the moment crushing down on him. The Galactic Council thought they had captured a simple human. Instead, they had awakened something far worse. And deep down, he knew they would regret it. Escape and uprising. The alarms blared through the Galactic Council's detention vessel, their shrill wail echoing off the metallic corridors. Commander Vorek stormed toward the bridge, his mind racing. He had ordered Evelyn Carter's execution, and yet she was still alive. Something was very wrong. Status report. He barked as he entered the command center. A panicked officer, a reptilian car named Relos, turned from his console. Sir, the security network is malfunctioning. Vorek's jaw tightened. Define malfunctioning. Relos swallowed. Weapons systems are locked. Internal sensors are failing, and the cell doors in Block C just opened on their own. Vorak froze. He turned to the main view screen, which displayed the prison sector. The cells were open, every single one. Evelyn Carter had begun her rebellion. The woman who wasn't supposed to exist. Evelyn Carter strode through the chaos of the prison deck, her hands now free. Around her, alien prisoners, criminals, rebels, and political dissidents emerged from their cells, glancing at her with wary curiosity. "You freed us," growled a towering Morvaxian, its four muscular arms tense for a fight. Evelyn smirked. "The council locked you up because they feared you. How about you prove them right?" That was all it took. The prisoners erupted into action. Security teams rushed in, but they were unprepared. Their weapons wouldn't fire. Evelyn had already taken control of the system. An insectoid Sarek prisoner clicked its mandibles. The doors, the guns, the cameras. "That was you." Evelyn gave a casual shrug. "Turns out, I'm good with machines." In truth, her abilities ran far deeper than that. Since she had been captured, she had spent every moment subtly infiltrating the ship's systems. Listening, learning, waiting. Now, she was in full control. The guards fought desperately, but they were outnumbered. The uprising spread through the vessel like wildfire. Vorak's desperation. On the bridge, Vorak watched the security feeds in horror. His ship was falling apart. The prisoners had reached the armory, and now his own weapons were being used against him. "Shut it down," he roared. "Override the security locks." "We can't," Relo shouted, his claws flying over the console. She rewrote the access codes. She's inside the system." Vorak's heart pounded. This wasn't just a jailbreak. This was a coup. He turned to Yixis. "We need reinforcements. Now." Yixis hesitated. "Commander, if we report this, the Council will order immediate vessel destruction. They won't risk her escaping." Vorak hesitated. The Council's protocol was clear. If a Tarnax anomaly was loose, they would destroy the entire ship, including him. A cold sweat formed on his brow. But then a new alert flashed across the screen. "Unauthorized transmission detected." Vorak's eyes widened. "What is she sending?" The screen flickered, and suddenly, Evelyn Carter's face appeared on every monitor aboard the ship. The broadcast. "Hello, dear captors," Evelyn said, her voice calm but laced with amusement. "I thought it was time we had a little chat." Vorak clenched his fists. "Cut the feed." "We can't," Relo stammered. "She's completely bypassed our control systems." Evelyn continued, her expression growing serious. "The Galactic Council thinks it can control the universe. It silences threats before they rise. It erases species that refuse to kneel. But they made a mistake." She tilted her head. "They took me." A murmur spread through the bridge crew. Even the hardened officers felt a growing sense of unease. "I wasn't supposed to exist," Evelyn continued. "But I do. And now, so does the truth." The transmission spread, not just through the ship, but beyond. She had hijacked the communications array. She was broadcasting to every Council frequency, every colony, every fleet, every enemy of the Council. And then, she gave them the final push. "The time has come," she said, her voice unwavering. "Rise up. Fight back. And remember, the Council fears you for a reason." Vorak's stomach dropped. This wasn't just a prison riot anymore. It was a revolution. The battle begins. The prisoners had fully taken over the detention deck, overrunning security forces. The Sarek, the Morvaxians, even the smaller, weaker species, the Council had underestimated them all, just as they had underestimated Evelyn. Vorak's comms crackled. "Commander, the Dreadnought Vindicator has arrived. They're charging weapons." Vorak went still. The Council had made its decision. They weren't sending help. They were sending annihilation. He turned toward the screen, where Evelyn's broadcast still played. She stared directly into the camera, as if she could see him. "You should have just let me go," she murmured. The ship trembled as the Dreadnought prepared to fire. The countdown had begun. The regret of the Council. The Vindicator, a Galactic Council dreadnought, loomed outside the prison vessel like a silent executioner. Its weapon systems were primed, the power core surging as it prepared to obliterate everything. the prisoners, the ship, and, most importantly, Evelyn Carter. On the bridge, Commander Vorek stood frozen. The council had made its decision. No rescue. No negotiations. Only destruction. "We have to abandon ship," his second-in-command, Yixis, said urgently. "They will fire in less than 2 minutes." Vorek's claws curled into fists. This wasn't supposed to happen. They had captured a single human. It should have been routine. Instead, they had unleashed a force that was now beyond their control. And she wasn't finished yet, turning the council's might against them. In the depths of the ship, Evelyn Carter moved like a ghost, slipping through the chaos of the prison decks. The prisoners, now armed and rallying behind her, secured the final control stations, cutting off council reinforcements. A Tsaric fighter approached her, mandibles clicking anxiously. "The dreadnought is charging its primary cannon. If it fires—" "I know," Evelyn said, already pulling up a holographic interface. She wasn't worried. She had been waiting for this. Tapping into the systems with her mind, she reached out, not just to the prison vessel, but to the Vindicator itself. The Tarnax's anomaly within her wasn't just a mutation. It was an ability, a power the Council had feared for millennia. Evelyn didn't just hack technology. She became part of it. The Vindicator's systems stuttered. Red warning lights flickered across its bridge. Inside the dreadnought, confused officers scrambled to regain control as screens displayed the impossible. Unauthorized access detected. Command override in progress. Evelyn smiled. "Got you." The Council's mistake. On the Vindicator, Admiral Krex, a towering, silver-skinned Ulthari, stared at the chaotic readouts. "Who is doing this?" he snarled. A trembling officer responded, "Sir, it's her." Krex's eyes narrowed. "That's impossible." But it wasn't. The primary cannon, once aimed at the prison vessel, suddenly shifted. Target locked, the Vindicator. A moment of stunned silence. Then, alarm screamed. "She's turned our own weapons against us," someone shouted. Krex's rage turned to panic. "Shut it down. Override her, override." They tried. They failed. Evelyn had already rewritten the Dreadnought's control systems. She wasn't just escaping. She was making a point. Vorek's choice. Back on the prison vessel, Vorek watched as the Vindicator's weapons began targeting its own fleet. One woman, one captured human, and now the Council's own warship was betraying them. Yixis turned to him. "Commander, what do we do?" Vorek looked at the chaos around him. He had spent his life enforcing the Council's rule, believing in its order. But today he had seen the truth. The Council didn't seek justice. It sought control. And when it couldn't control something, it destroyed it, just as it had tried to do to Evelyn, just as it had done to the Tarnax, and just as it would do to him if he stayed loyal. Vorek exhaled. Then, with a calm he hadn't felt in years, he turned to his crew. "We fight." Yixis blinked in shock. "What?" "We fight," Vorek repeated. "For our own survival." For the first time, Vorek disobeyed the Council. Retribution. The Vindicator's primary cannon fired. A massive explosion ripped through the void, but not toward the prison vessel. Instead, it struck the Council's fleet. The Dreadnought, under Evelyn's control, turned against its masters. What had begun as a simple interrogation had become a war. Evelyn's voice crackled through the comms, addressing Vorek directly. "Not bad, Commander," she said. "Didn't think you had it in you." Vorek exhaled. "I didn't either." A beat of silence. Then, "We're not done," Evelyn continued. "The Council won't let this stand. They'll send more ships. A lot more." Vorek knew she was right. They had started something that couldn't be undone. "We need to leave," Evelyn said. "And then we need to take the fight to them." Vorek looked at his crew, many of whom had once believed in the Council's rule. Now, they stood on the edge of treason. But perhaps treason was the only just path left. He nodded. "Where do we go?" Evelyn smiled. "Wherever the Council doesn't want us to." The rebellion had begun. And this time, humanity wasn't alone.